I drink and I know things. That's a competitive advantage for me. Uh, Not the drinking part, but the knowing things part. If you have spent enough time in your marketplace, um, the pain of real turns into knowing things, and it's not painful anymore because you put your time in. If you put your time in, it's not even leaning into pain anymore. It's just saying, "Oh, this is going to be fun," and like this kind of pain. I'm used to it. Anybody in the arts knows this. Like my daughter's in middle school, and instead of dance competitions and ice skating competitions, she did both. She was in dance competitions, and it's like she didn't go that far, but it was going there. She's not interested. Ice skating competitions, yeah, she's interested. She did well. Uh, she got some first places even, and she went out with the first place. And she said, "I don't want to do this anymore." Um, she loved it, and it was just the dance was competing with it. It's an arts company. Where I live, there's actually an arts company for middle school kids, and you can start at 3 years old, and it's not competitive. It requires the pain of real. So people, in elementary school, it's a good idea to give these every kid gets a trophy, right? Every kid gets a ribbon. It's a good idea in elementary school, but at a certain point, as they get closer to middle school, they need to be able to fail and learn how to fail. And in ice skating, it's a comparison game. Same with dance competitions. So the judges decide. That's what I hated about it. I don't have anything against ice skating. For some people, that's what they want. They want to be measured against a standard and they want to compete to win. And if they don't, they're not interested. She's competitive. She's competitive and she liked that part of it. Relating this to entrepreneurship is important to me because deciding what game I want to play is important. Do I want to play the compare myself against a standard game? That's the influencer founder mode stuff. That's I just call it popularity founder mode. So I'm online. I'm comparing myself against the standard and trying to figure out how they do it and how am I going to do it to be like them, so I can win like they did and maybe go into their private groups, which can get super expensive if you've not noticed. The popularity founder mode is very expensive. So it's turn my light on. It's organic media, but it's expensive because you got to learn how to do it. The other way to think about it is, am I going to win in the hierarchy of my market? So that's the lane of the popularity people and the people who are climbing up with them to be like them in their system. And that lane is the competitive lane. So I'm thinking, Michael Jordan's going to do that, like for sure. Like he's not going to go just play his own game off in the wilderness and then prosper like a maniac when he figures it out. Like that's creating a new sport, basically, which is what I like to do and always have since I was 5. Like I want to create my own sport, not be a better baseball player. Or now I made a state championship football team and I was good. But in the hierarchy of that coaching system that I was in, I wasn't going to play a lot. They were not going to nurture my talent. I was good. I wouldn't have made the team if I wasn't good. There was no everybody gets a ribbon with that. It was 2-a-days in August in humidity and pain. Pain. How many push-ups could you do? I loved hitting. I like playing tight end. I could catch, and I like being a linebacker, so I could hit people. um, but fitting into the coaching system wasn't going to work for me because the head coach was he preferred not me. So what's the game you're going to play, and what's going on in your market in relation to that game? And I think the new game is the game of what I'm calling flexible founder mode. And that game is leaning in, not avoiding pain, but not having opinions about how it works, doing the work itself. I think the opinion economy feels like an older economy now, and we've had it for long enough. And this started really with the social media exploding. So now all of a sudden you can go on social media and have an opinion system. And then if you do it right, you can convince other people to give you money based on all kinds of business models that they figured out um, that work. Now, as that sort of matured, what emerges next is important to see. And what emerges next depends on your market and the lane you want to be in that market. And most importantly, what you're like. If you don't have a competitive hierarchy game and that's who you are, you're not gonna want it. I can't imagine Michael Jordan doing things the way I do them. He wouldn't. He wants to win, and he bets on I've heard about this, where he plays golf, he bets on every single shot, and he's looking for somebody to fight with, because he wants to compete. So he found his lane. Now my daughter is in an arts company. It's like being in an arts company in New York City where we live. It's incredible. I love it. That fits our family. And the people who go to it fit our family. We relate to each other. So you got to find your game and your lane. Now, there's certain principles within this. If you're an entrepreneur, if you get all caught up in the what everybody else is doing thing and don't understand even what game you're playing, you're going to fail because there's people who do. They know, and they're good at it. And that's why I got the Tyrion Lannister shirt on right now. Game of Thrones. I think and I know things. And if you're a think and know things person, you're an entrepreneur and you're leading, and that means you got to lead into what's next. And that could be what's next in the competitive hierarchies. It could be in what's next of the comparing yourself against a standard. That's the Kim Kardashian social media stuff. They're comparing themselves against a standard. That's what I see on Facebook a lot. They're comparing themselves against a standard. Alex Hormozy, um, um, the school ecosystem. I'm comparing myself against a standard. And the people who like that are usually, I think, more beginner like, because they want to feel safe and comfortable in the ecosystem. So if you're like that, um, figure it out. And then here's my recommendation: leave. When you figure it out, leave. Why? Because you're not going to win. Because if you're comparing yourself against their standard, that's designed so they make more money. And if you find a little lane in that, you're sailing around in somebody else's bad air. They won, you lost. When I was into sailboat racing, I raced sailboats for over 20 years and in competitive fleets. So think of it like single A baseball. Single A, if you're not from the United States, single A baseball they could be good. They could be good. It's not triple A. Triple A is they're going to be pros or not. They're there. It's like I'm either going to be a pro or I'm going to go sell insurance or something else, or I'm going back to my country. It's like pros. That's a whole nother thing. So what happens in single A is it's fun, and I loved it because it was competitive. These people were good, not me, but I got good. I got good enough. Am I ever going to be triple A in sailboat racing? No. I had a neighbor who was not triple A, but maybe double A. And he competed in Worlds, an incredibly competitive fleet. Like I think these boats were called, he was in, I think, 505s or 49ers, maybe 505s. These are really difficult boats to sail. If you screw up, the boat just stops dead in the water. It's athletic. He was super athletic. He owned an Equinox gym. And we're playing a different game. So you bring somebody like that out in one of the fleets in single A that was in. These are called T10s on Lake Michigan. It was great. He had 50 boats on it, starting 50, 30-foot keel boats. It's dangerous. It takes some really serious skill to do that. It was great. So I became what I call competent crew. So it's hard to find competent crew that show up and can do the job. So I was always able to get a ride and be a part of a boat. So I was part of two 2 programs over all those years. I moved on, and then one in between that didn't work out. It was a wrong fit. That's important to know too. Wrong fit. And I did something that nobody does in that fleet, which is I wasn't that good, and I acted as if I had something to offer, and they get to pick me as opposed to me wanting to be in their hierarchy. And I did it publicly in the listserv in the entire fleet, and nobody did it. And I think some people probably thought, "Who is this guy? What does he think he's? Who does he think he is? He doesn't even know anything." I had skills. So I'm picking you. You're not picking me. I'm picking you. And I could have been on the third string team for the top boat in the fleet. And they acted as if they were doing me a favor to let me on the third string. And my answer was, I'm not interested in that. I want to go sail and I want to be in the core of the crew and I want to compete and win and be good. But it's not about winning because we're not going to win. There's just no way. It's not going to happen, especially if they bring pros out, which they did sometimes. And we would just look at them and say, okay, who's going to win this race? Regatta. They're regattas. And like this boat, and this boat. That's Heidi. She's from Cleveland. She's going to win. It's a pro game. Be aware of this in your market or you're going to lose and you're going to run out of money. It's expensive. To be in these people's programs and courses and buy all this stuff. It eats away at you over time. What's next? I call it flexible founder mode, which is figure out the game you want to play it. And there's lots of methods to do this. Now, what I'm going to talk about right now is the pain of real and how to lean into, not avoid pain. So the new marketing concept that's coming into the market is about suffering and pain. And the people who are talking about it aren't making a distinction between suffering and pain. And it's totally different. And they're not making a distinction between positive thinking and gratitude and what's called the law of assumption, which comes from, it doesn't come from anybody. It just exists. That's the point. So there's a lot of rafts to that shore. And the best raft for, you want to understand law of assumption, don't learn about it on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. Read Neville Goddard. You want to learn about law of assumption, read Neville Goddard and then do what he suggests for a sustained period of time. Or if you don't like Neville Goddard, try Michael Singer. Or Deepak Chopra's not bad. They know what they're talking about. Eckhart Tolle is not bad either. So you find the resonant expert who knows. I think and I know things comes at the end of doing it long enough where you think and you know things. Now, drinking is an option. For me, it's scotch, and all kinds of other cool. I'm drinking now. It's called Copyright. Wait, God damn it, I forgot again. It's the South African Afrikaners drink, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm drinking this where I live, in Skokie, Evanston. But it's kind of funny at the same time. And I'm like, some people are going to get triggered by the fact I'm drinking this. And I've been saying things like send Elon Musk back to Africa because I heard that in Saturday Night Live. And I'm like, that's so hilarious and a good idea too. Um, positive thinking, gratitude, and creating from thought matter. That matters, but know how to do it or you're going to fail at it. You get into toxic positivity on one side, or you get into suffering and grinding away forever on the other side. I sailed at the back of the fleet for the Vanguard 15s in Montrose Harbor in north side of Chicago. I still did the big boats, but I bought a Vanguard 15, which is where all the college sailors, college athletes, college sailing teams at like Northwestern, University of Wisconsin, University of Michigan, that's where they go after college sailing's over. Now I'm with them. Am I going to win any of that? No, I'm going to sail around in their bad air and try not to get killed or drown. And I got a great crew to do this with me. She did it with me for 3.5 years, and she could have been on any boat she wanted. And I cannot believe she stuck with me. She was so good. and I was so bad, but I kept going. I loved it. 30-degree water, spring frostbiting, fall frostbiting, regattas. It was painful, and there's no way I'm gonna be successfully compete, but I love doing it. I kept doing it, and, after a while, it's insane. It's just an addiction. It's just sort of like, I gotta stop, and I did. I did. I quit, and the reason is, in sailboat racing, it's all about clear air. There's 2 parts of sailboat racing. I'm gonna apply this to what I'm talking about for entrepreneurs and markets. There's 2 parts. I need clear air, which is called getting a lane, where I'm sailing my race, not their race. That's sailboat racing 101. The other side of it is direct line to the bearing, either the mark I'm going to on a Olympic style course, or a what we call windward leeward course, which is you go up and you go down. Can't go in a straight line. The boat won't do it. It'll just sit there like this. You could do that all day. You're not going to go anywhere. You can't put a motor on it and just, they're putting motors on their boats. That's the point. I'm sailing around in bad air behind college athletes that have been sailing since they were, when did they start? 5. It's called an optimist. 5. When did I start? 30s. It's not going to happen. And I didn't get into a small boat, which is harder. Believe it or not, they tip over. It's significantly harder. And the wind's going like this, and it's just so much harder. 3-dimensional chess and working out in the gym at an equinox together, really hard. And you got to be brilliant analytically, which I'm not. So I could not have been worse suited to rise in that fleet than, I mean, I'm not athletic. I can't think clearly, analytically, but I can make the damn boat go fast, but not when I'm sailing around and behind somebody's bad air. And what they'll do is they'll keep tacking on you, they'll jibe on you. Sitting on you means they're taking your air, slowing you down, and they're gassing ahead. Now, you can't put a motor on, so you can't cheat. Who's cheating on social media? Think about it. You're on one of those big stages. What are you doing? You're finding other people with big stages and you're collaborating behind the scenes. You're going to win in that. Now, getting over the pain for me was, I loved it. I wanted to be doing it. And then it was so painful, I didn't want to do it anymore. Then it turned into suffering. It was like, I want to win. I just wanted a clear lane. There was one race where I almost won and then I blew it completely. And the reason I won was pure luck. They had a big wind shift. I won't explain sailboat racing, it's too complicated. Big wind shift, and I'm on the right side of the course. Now I have leverage up to the mark, the bearing, and I'm ahead of everybody. And everyone caught me. There's just no, but I'm fast, but I'm not athletic enough to hold the lane, to go into the mark at the right angle. It's just not going to happen. But one guy says, he's like, you're fast. I said, I know. If all we had to do was just go fast, it was like an ice boat. Ice boats work like that. It's like, if we just have to go fast, I could drive in a distance race, but not if there's a bunch of boats around. I'm going to kill somebody. So anyways, it's not a choice between leaning into the vision, creating a flow of thought, emotion, and body energy. Those are the 3 systems for human beings that drives you forward into destiny, versus being real, honest, and leaning into crisis. It's both. Yes, and. We must adopt yes and thinking. Yes and thinking. Both sides. There's always both sides. It's always, it's not right or wrong. It's both sides. The sides are not this side or that side ever. It's never this or that. That's an or. It's not that. It's yes and. It's, I got to move forward and I got to release myself from old thinking, the burdens that I'm creating in my own experience that are holding me back. That's how it works. The pain is loving doing that. And when you get good enough, because you've gone to the gym for, how long does it take to do this? A week to get started? You go to the gym for a week and all of a sudden you're like, you know, I like this. I hate the gym. So I picked martial arts. I've been doing it for 30 years. And I do energy martial arts. I don't do the, but I can now. That took 30 years because it's easy, because it's flowing. flowing energy expressed out into the world through an iron fist. That's the martial arts I was trained in. Takes a while, but it doesn't have to take you that long. I bet in a week you could completely change the trajectory of not only your entrepreneur business, if you're like me, but your coaching business and your service business. You could change it in a week. You're not going to get the result yet, but you'll immediately start to notice it's different because you're playing your own game. That's the flexible founder mode approach. Um, what works is both at the same time. My entrepreneur life was not born from the pain of failure. It was created by doors into society's hierarchies slamming in my face, starting when I was 12 years old. I was told by the way people related to me starting when I was 12 years old, you don't belong in our group. Now I look back and I'm like, thank you for that. But it started at 12, if not at 7. But it's different at 7. But by the time you hit 12, you're doing emotional development work. And the emotional development work for me was you don't belong here. That was in the social group, that was in the school, and that was in my own family. You don't belong here. Our belief system is different than what you're noticing. So I was seeing things at school, in the social group, and at home, and in the society. And I'm like, this isn't right. What is the answer to when you're like that? You're wrong, we're right. So the pain of failure was that continued, and I succeeded. But going into the pain and learning to love it becomes the work. So learning to embrace doubt, embrace fear and pain took years. It doesn't have to take years if your family supported you with your own emotional development and your society supported you with your own emotional development and you're already like fairly solid. It's not going to take years. And it won't take as long if you're like me, a mutant avenger who spent time on the island of lost toys, who's figured it out and is no longer on the island of lost toys, mutated or transmuted the inner gift into something new in the form of a company taking risks as an entrepreneur. It doesn't have to take 30 years anymore. That's the Steve Jobs era. That's over. You could do that, but you're going to fail because the market's changing too quickly. So you're going to have to do this differently. So learning to embrace doubt, fear, and pain took years. Doesn't have to. It did lead to arrival at the point of no return. That's for sure. Arrival at the point of no return. All of a sudden, you squeeze through these little holes, and it's like, oh, I'm never going backwards. And when I first learned about this back in the 90s, it was called differentiation. So it was a psychology system called Bowen theory. So it was about energy and anxiety flowing through triangles. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's exactly how it works. Now that's a raft to the shore. So I'm 20 years past Bowen theory, but not past the truth of it. So I got down to the core of it, energy traveling through triangles, and I'm either out or in. I'm on the out of it or I'm in the in of it. And being able to stand in the pain of being on the out of the triangle is the work. And then I'm like, oh, you two are best friends. You two are the inside. You're the in crowd. And I'm standing here on the outside watching you and actually listening to what's going on. And I don't have an attachment to that because I'm on the out. That's the work. And that's the middle school work that I didn't do. So I had to do it as an adult. You may too, but you can do it if you understand it and you have help. You don't need a lot of help. You just need some help. Learn to expand your thoughts, vision, and aperture as you engage the market. It's dual. I call it open aperture focus. So I got to pay attention to my own awareness expanding, my own thoughts and vision and aperture expanding inside me. That's called increasing self-awareness. But I also have to pay attention to the market. What's going on with them at the same time? But there's ways of going in and out into the market. This is how we do it with flexible founder mode in our group. It's in and then back out into the market and know when to go in. Sometimes I drive around for 4 hours, talk to myself. That's work. It's part of the work. It's hard to do that in a society that defines work as doing this. It's not true. So the feeling of authority comes when you become who you are through full embrace of not knowing, That's the hardest part for most people. I'm used to it. I've not known since I was 7 why I belong in my own family. And have not known since 12 how I'm going to make a living in the society. I knew it starting at 12, like this is going to be a problem. I'm going to end up living in my parents' basement. So I got to figure out something. Slamming down parking brakes that hold you back, they slam down. You slam them down. You don't even lower them. You can lower them, but that's harder. What's easier is just to rip the Band-Aid off, slam it down. I'll go do the hard thing, report back, expand awareness, go into myself. I'm not going to work for 2 days. I'm going to wander around, take a walk in the woods, go down to the lake. I'm going to do Tai Chi or expand that now into Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee style. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to work for 2 days. That's work. That's awareness work. And then I got to go back in the market. You want to speed up the cycle. That's key. Create the company, take the risk, and get the result. I could not do this without other people. I would not be able to do it. It would have been too slow. It was just I couldn't have done it. There's no way done what we did. It's a we. There's no way. For under $2,000 a month, slamming down parking brakes that hold you back and lean fully into resistance. That's a weird feeling when you lean fully into projections of other people on you, and I'm like, oh, they don't understand. I had one woman who's reaching out. She thinks I'm stuck in my white male privilege, and I'm like, you have no idea the work I've done on this stuff. You have an opinion about it that you projected onto me because you misunderstood something I said. I can't get her to understand. She said, our conversation is over. Yes, it is. The feeling of authority comes when you become who you are through a full embrace of not knowing, slamming down those parking brakes that hold you back and leaning fully into resistance. Being able to do that with this group of people that we've got together is how I did it. Otherwise, it would have taken longer. The power of resistance used as a learning laboratory separates those who succeed on their own terms and remaining in a prison created inside your own mind, trapped outside real success. That's what's going on with social media because so many people are on the outside trying to get up the hierarchy. And I see this everywhere I go. When I was doing all the free coaching networking groups, it was all about how do I get up? How do I get to those people so they lift me up the rungs? What are they going to do? They're going to charge me for the privilege. How much is that group? Oh, 20 grand a year, 25, oh, 100 grand a year. I'm good. No, thank you. You need an alternative. We have an alternative to that. And we're launching our next week. So that's invite only. It's not invite. It's you got to know somebody in the group because somebody's got to say, I know this person, because we don't want all the networkers and the fraudsters and the hucksters and the hidden agenda people like roaming around looking for clients. We want people who want to be here. And then we'll open it to everyone by end of March. So that's the plan. And it's going to take a year to roll out this company because there's a big content platform strategy and a big local strategy, which I've already started where I live with a group to innovate in how people buy houses, sell houses, manage houses, live in houses. So that's a Google replacement for the home industry and lead generation because you can't win that anymore. It's an arms race and it's a pro game. That's what I'm talking about. If you're a pro, you can win with a crappy product. Have you noticed? The worst possible dentists are at the top of Google right now. The razor's edge way of life, even lived a little, gets you to success faster than anything else. I've been on the razor's edge of life since I was 12 years old. 12 years old, razor's edge. And the razor's edge of life is being outside and knowing you're outside and saying, for a while, how do I get inside? And then after a while saying, there's no inside to get to. Why would I do that? I'm going to just do it my own way, but I'm going to do it based on the laws, principles, and mechanisms that govern reality. Otherwise, I'm going to be floundering around in the wilderness by myself and eventually lose my house and end up living in a hut.